All right, we should be live. 1 minute until we get started here with this week's rapid team battle. Time control of 10 plus 5. And I think we're going to stick with the same thing as before. If the player is under... What did we do before? Was it under 1,800 or under 1,900? Under 1,900 we berserked. We'll see how it goes. See how the team's doing. We are seated 10th right now.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
We'll readjust the board here. There, you should be able to see. Okay. And we're off. Let's play a gambit to start. Hey, Neon. How you doing? Welcome to the chat. So this is the Smith-Morra gambit here. I don't really know any of the theory. Just give up the c-pawn and look for some play. He's trying to control that f4 square so that I can't put pressure on c7. But if I remember correctly, some of the openings have not gone well before against this player. So just trying to mix things up. Let's keep it on this diagonal, even though e6 is played. Okay, we're going to have to come up with a plan at some point, though. So, do we bring this knight over to the king side? It's really not doing anything on its current square, other than guarding e4, but he's not even attacking that. So, yeah, I think rearranging this knight's a good idea. Well, there are a lot of gambits, and they're a lot of fun to play. A couple things to keep in mind when you are gambiting, that activity is most important. So don't worry about getting your pawn back. Don't even worry about giving up some more pawns. It's all about keeping your pieces active and avoiding trades. So you can see I'm trying to keep as many minor pieces, bishops and knights, on the board as I can, because that gives me the best chances. Now here, black is probably slightly better because I don't have much of an initiative or an attack right now, but no big weaknesses. My rooks have found reasonable files. We're playing quite a good player. I need to find something to do with my queen. Give a rook and a knight for the black queen. Okay, so typically when the word gambit is used for an opening, it's in reference to a pawn. And so if you're giving up your rook and knight for the black queen, that sounds like either a sacrifice or just a specific line in an opening where that happens. Because usually for that type of material exchange, both people have to play along. But I'd be happy to give up a rook and a knight for a queen. Sounds like a good trade, so you must be getting some nice positions. All right, they're hitting the rook here. I can either go back to f1, or I can go up to e2. I mean, let's go to e2. We got to keep things active. Okay, so it's okay. Are you playing f4 after that, the King's Gambit? Or are you playing d4 to kind of d4 and c3 for a Danish Gambit? Let's kick this bishop out of here. I don't like that it's on these dark squares. I wanted to have to back up. You can see right now I'm controlling this c5 square. We do have a time edge, which means absolutely nothing in this position because he still has 8 minutes. Oh, interesting. So he brings it back to d6. It looks a little loose on that square. Like, for example, if I play my bishop over here and the queen captures, well, then he loses his queen. Okay, so here he has to play f6. That seems like a concession. I like that. Oh, this is actually going to get really interesting. If f6, I have to move knight f5, which hits the bishop and the queen. Black moves to e5, and then I move the king's knight. Okay. It's good that you're trying to use the chess language. That's the best way. That chess notation, using those words. Best way to get better at it. Okay, so we're going to attack the queen here. This is really an interesting position. So this pawn's pinned, so our knight's not actually hanging. This bishop is under attack. This bishop's under attack. The queen's under attack. When I take here with the knight, I will be attacking the queen or this bishop. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. So this is the kind of position we were looking for. Something messy. We're down the pawn, but suddenly things are very complicated. This is the type of position where an extra pawn doesn't matter. So if he goes queen here, we take this with tempo on the queen. If the queen retreats here, tempo on the queen. And he just resigned. Okay, so he can go here. We take this. We're hitting this bishop. Yeah, just lots of good things. Wow, that went from calm to resign very quickly. I'll have to look at that one later, that ending position. I wonder if he could have survived. Thank you. Yeah, it ended up knight f5 was a nice move, but it was kind of fortunate. I stumbled into that. But that bishop on d6 just looked a little loose. Okay, so we're going to wait a second for our next game here. We see a lot of people have already finished, and Alabama leading the way with 11 points so far. Okay. Yeah, if you can find good trades, favorable trades, then that's definitely beneficial. One thing that I often tell people is that the more material on the board, the better chance your opponent's going to make a mistake. So I tend to like to leave as much on the board as possible because the more material on the board also, the better chance of you coming back if you make a mistake. So trading often, you got to be confident in it. Bishop b4 here with the check. Oh, he blocks with the bishop. Okay. Now, apparently I've played this player 3 times, with each one once, and we had a draw. I don't remember this specific opening. Okay, late mid-game, transition into the end game. Yeah. Well, if you're confident in your late middle game and your end games, then trading can be a good decision. I'm going to throw in this check. And we're playing against this isolated pawn right now. So that pawn has no friends to defend it. And he's in a lot of trouble here. He is in a lot of trouble. We have a pin down the e-file. We have our knight hitting it. We're hitting g2. No one cares about our pins tonight. So we're pinning this bishop. And I think we're just winning a piece. There are also ideas of going here with check if the queen moves. I mean, there's... Okay. So we can take with the rook or the knight. Probably just makes sense to take with the knight, keep things simple. Well, actually, this keeps things better than simple. Yeah, he's just going to give up the queen. Okay, so now we're up the queen. Let's just pin this knight while we're at it. And he resigned. Okay, why berserk whenever people are giving us their material tonight? So that's 2 games in the book. And we're in second place overall here. This person already has 3 games done. Wow. Three in a row is good. So Horowitz is playing. He's quite strong. I don't see Memphis's other national master. Clay is playing. I've played him before. Got the better of him last time we played. Oh, okay, here we go. Ooh, very high provisional rating. So this is the guy that is first overall. And he's playing a very passive type setup, just trying to keep things flexible. Yeah, if you can minimize those blunders, then that's when you can really start to see the improvement. Well, I learned in 2nd grade, so about 20 years ago now, I played a bit competitively when I was in middle school, and then took a few years off, and then in college, I got back into it, and I've been doing it ever since. So I guess I played off and on for about 10 years, and then pretty consistent the last 10 years. So we're going to play here. I should probably try and play h3, because this is an important square to control. How interesting. So he just wants my light squared bishop. Often in these positions, when they fianchetto on the king side, we'll be looking to go queen side and try and push the h-pawn. So I'm going to... I'm going to still castle queenside. It's good that you're getting into it right now. Lots of resources out there. It's a good time to be a chess player. If he takes the bishop, I'm probably going to capture with the queen. And yeah, let's push the h-pawn. The strong player, so we might have to sacrifice to try and force something to happen. So, okay. Let's back the queen up. Yeah, let's back the queen up. We want to play bishop h6 and trade dark squared bishops because of the dark squared weaknesses over here on the king side. A3 is not a fun move to play, but I don't think we can allow them to play A3. There's a pawn move you're worried your opponent's going to play. Try to play it yourself. Okay, that's a good move. Can I try and keep this bishop? This knight needs to get out of the way. Knight h2. Yeah, I'm a little suspicious of my own position here. All right, we'll take once. and then just go right back. And we're winning a rook here, actually, with this nice check. This is actually a really common tactic against these fianchetto setups. The king moves, and we just take this rook. Now, we're going to lose an exchange back here, but that shouldn't be enough. No one wants to keep their material against us tonight. So we're just going to take it and hope we can convert here. Yeah, a lot of it is just pattern recognition. I've played this type of opening quite a lot, and so there's some tactics that just appear over and over again in these openings. Okay, so now the next question is... Oh, wait. He just gave me his queen, too. No question here. That's just a fork. All right. Well, he lost 430 points for that. But we're going to just hang on to this first place. That's 3 in a row for us. So things are definitely going our way so far. Alabama continues to be in first place. My USCF rating is a little over 2,000. So expert. Trying to work my way towards master. VM 2019. Okay, we haven't played this player before. We're going to play a French. He's playing fast. French 1 hour. This is going to get very sharp and crazy if you'd like. So I'm going to offer up some pawns and king safety in exchange for some activity down the c file. I have not watched it yet, but I get asked about it on a daily basis, so I'm sure I'm going to need to watch it soon. Yeah, I hear it's really good. Okay, so this is a very unusual way for white to play. Usually the queen comes out to g4 and tries to grab some pawns. I'm going to go ahead and hit that queen with my knight. And now I'm going to be winning at least the e5 pawn. Take with the knight or take with the queen. I'm going to be a little boring and take with the queen. Offers the queen trade. And look at those nice knights in the center. And I'm still going to get my rook to the c file since it's half open. One thing I got to watch out for is a rook coming to d1 and pinning my knight, but he didn't do so. So now we are up the pawn, and we have the better structure. So this is just about some endgame technique. Right, a lot of people, once they lose their queen, they forget that that's only part of the game. Yeah, being able to play without the queen is a valuable skill. at all levels. But here with 4 pawn islands for him and only 2 for me, he definitely should not be trading. Let's wander around with this knight. Hit this, hit this. Do we take that pawn? Actually, let's hit this knight. And then I'm going to go here. He can't fork me here. It's covered by my knight. I'm just trying to trade rooks here. If I can trade rooks, this endgame gets a lot more simple. A lot of these games, I've got 10 or more minutes on the clock still, so really not using my time yet. But since it is a team battle, I want to be getting in as many games as I can also. So I want to trade rooks. And then I want to activate my king, get it closer to the center. It is a tournament between teams. So there's players who are on multiple. Each player is on a team, and their points are cumulative for their team. So you're not really playing for individual places. You're playing to get those points for the team. So it's called a team battle, but in essence, it is a tournament. And so, yeah, it's a match between a bunch of different states and clubs. So the way it works is that the top point scorers on each team are the ones that count. And so if someone is lower rated but has a good night, they're going to contribute to the team. So it's not determined by your rating beforehand at all. There's an open section, and then there's also a section for players that are under 1,700 in Lichess Rapid. So the team has an unlimited number of players that are allowed to play, and then the top, I think it's 5 scores. The top 5 scores on each team in this tournament count. And different team battles will have different numbers. Well, I am higher rated than most of my opponents so far. That's not true. I guess I did play up in a couple of games. But I have not faced any national masters yet. So I did beat someone else that's another expert. Maybe they're a national master. And then there's that provisional person. But the people that are 1,800, I should be beating them if I'm on my game, because I should be able to win a pawn and then convert from there. But I suspect that I'm going to have some challenging games. This may be the highest rapid rating I've had on Lichess 2042. So now he's going to take his time to think, but it's a little bit too late. The damage has been done. This position should convert itself. So pawn and knight endgames are the closest to king-pawn endgames. And so having the knights on the board doesn't really increase white's drawing chances. If these were bishops, increase it a little bit. Opposite colored bishops, definitely increase it. Change them to rooks, increasing drawing chances. But the knights just don't really help white draw the game. And here, it's hard for white to create counterplay because, as we mentioned earlier in the game, with these multiple pawn islands, white can't create their own passed pawn. That's why it's so nice to have limited pawn islands. because then you can kind of create a pass pawn whenever you want. So this pawn majority 4 on 2 on the king side is very pleasant. Okay, let's just get that king closer. And the big thing here is don't fall for knight forks. Now, all that being said, I also don't have any passed pawns other than the e pawn, which he's right in front of. So I need to figure out how I'm going to force the issue. So let's try and get this knight to the c4 square. Go after this pawn, keep his king out a little bit. I don't want to push my pawns too far down the board, because the further they get down the board, the harder it will be for me to defend them. Yeah, that is often the best way to improve, is to fall for the same thing over and over again. And then you recognize the pattern. All right, we're just going to keep attacking this pawn. So that's what he wants to do. Let's step up with the king. And I'm in no rush. It doesn't matter whether I play this for 5 moves or 20 moves or 50 moves. Black's position is good. And so I don't need to be in a rush to push my pawns down the board. I just want to control some squares. Now I'm probably going to move this knight and move my king over here maybe. Okay, now I'm going to push his king back, because I would like my king to be sitting on c4. If I can move to c4, I'll win the pawn or the knight. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him move his knight back, and then I might push g5 at that point. Yep, he moves his knight back as expected. Here we go. Let's try this. Okay, I'm going to offer the knight trade. He's probably going to come back here. And then maybe I push the b pawn and retake with the knight. Is that an idea? And just push the a pawn. That seems like a good idea. Maybe. Maybe. I'm going to try it. He might be able to jump in here, but I don't think that's a problem. So now I've got a pass pawn. That was my idea. He jumps in here. Now we've got 3 passed pawns. Oh, you're in England. Well, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, it's definitely much later for you there. He might play this check. Now we're going to step 2 diagonal squares away from the knight, because that is the most inconvenient arrangement for the knight to attack anything. So if you're in an endgame, step 2 diagonal squares away from the knight, and it will struggle to participate against your king or against your rook if you're worried about your rook. Let's step this knight up so we can play a3. Play a3. And if I can get his king... Oh, was that a mistake? Let's see. Okay, we're going to push to a2 because his king can't approach. And now he has to go into the corner. And now his knight's stuck in the corner. So now we can walk our king up. So as I said, no rush. It certainly was not the fastest conversion ever, but it's going to work. Because a winning endgame is a winning endgame. Check. Come back. And he resigned. Okay. Whew. Right into the next game. That was quick. All right. Playing another French. We've actually gotten some nice, easy, exciting positions out of the French so far. So here, I'm going to play knight to e7. I want to keep the knights non-symmetrical in order to maximize the winning chances for each side. Just create that little bit of imbalance. Then I'm going to play c6 because I want to play bishop to f5, and I want this pawn to be guarded. Okay, and for some reason, I don't think this sacrifice works here. My bishop is covering the g4 square, and so I don't think it works. But we're about to find out. We might be getting checkmated real fast this game. Okay, well, our bishop wants to go to f5 anyway. Now I need to find a way to get my king back. So now I'm going to hit the knight. And the idea is I want to slip back this way once the knight moves. So yeah, now we're going to take the knight. And offer a rook trade, I guess. I think my king is very safe. My king has never felt so safe. So you can see that the light squares are really weak for me, but also that he doesn't have a light square bishop. So that's very telling in this position. He's looking to play the g4 move, which makes a lot of sense. I would really like to be able to trade queens or something here. Queen a5, g4, bishop back, queen check, king back? Or do I just move the king back now? That way my bishop can sit on the g6 square. Yeah, that seems like a pretty reasonable idea. Let's just move him back now. And this is a great time to have 10 minutes on the clock. And he's looking to try to force me to give back the piece, which I think I'm going to happily do. So if I trade rooks, then I lose the file. So right now this is a contested file because both of our rooks are on it. But if I trade rooks, then his rook will be on it, and I will not be able to move my queen to it. And so there's tension between the rooks, and I've got to be really careful about releasing that tension and losing control on the file. So I do want to trade rooks. I just don't want him to get the H file. Although now I might do it anyway at some point. Not yet. How far does my queen wander? Let's just put it on c7. This lets him trap my bishop if he wants. He doesn't. Okay. Hey, Nelson. It's going pretty well. I've won all my games so far tonight, so that's a good start. Well, my second rook can't move to this square because it's unguarded right now. That's why I talked earlier about getting my knight to this square, because that's my goal. I want to trade rooks and play the second one to h8. I just can't yet. Just haven't figured out how. Okay, let's try and trade some more pieces. So now my bishop has escaped. And I might even play my second rook over to g8, just so my king can run to the queen side. Yeah, because it looks like he wants to, well, he obviously wants to try and checkmate me. So let's run this way so that my king can run away. So I still don't want to trade and allow him to get to the h-file, but now my king might be able to run all... Okay, he's letting me run. We're going for it. Well, the way I think about it is that right now I'm fighting for control on this file, and so my rook is doing something. And if I trade the rooks, then I don't have anyone on that file. And so that's really all what it's about, is making sure there's someone on that file trying to help me out. Okay, he's looking to push here. How dangerous are these pawns? I'm not sure. We can play bishop here, which is an interesting move. Very interesting move. Let's sit and think for a moment here. King d8, f6, capture, capture, knight takes. Yeah, I think I want my king over just so I don't get forked on f7 or something. But these pawns have definitely run down the board a little faster than I expected. Now he's trying to come this way. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go here because I want to play bishop to f4 and trade bishops. So let's see where his queen goes here. I can also take on f5 in some positions. He's looking to play the move d5 and open up this file where my king is. Okay, so now we've got the choice. We can capture this pawn and hit his bishop, or we can play our bishop here and force the bishops off the board. Something says I should just take this pawn. Now I've got an interesting idea that now I take the bishop, and now I win the queen. Didn't get time to say it, but this is the pin I've been eyeing up for most of the game once the bishop was on that diagonal. And the queen was the one guarding it. So the queen got overworked, and now we've got plenty of extra material. And now I'm happy to trade. He cannot take back because there's a fork on this square. And that's all she wrote. Good game. Back to tournament. Yeah, I kept wanting to explain it, but there's always something a little more pressing, and so it was like something that was just in the back of my mind. Okay, not a Caro-Kann, a b5 opening. So what's his idea here? Usually when you push the b pawn this early, you're looking to play bishop b7, but obviously he's blocked that with the c pawn. Well, I'm just going to develop normally. Might not be the best way to punish this opening, but I just want to get a playable position. Castle kingside. f6. Wow. Okay. Interesting. So it's creating a lot of weaknesses. Yeah, I think just putting a rook on the e-file. Yeah, first bottom of the knight. So he's preventing bishop f4. Fine. I don't think I'm getting checkmated or anything. Knight to c3 invites him to push the b pawn again. I'm not sure I'm prepared for that. So maybe he's looking to use that square? Just trying to control the squares he's fighting for. And now I'll let him play b4, and I'll rearrange my knight. If it goes to e2, it'll further control the f4 square. Let's control that b4 square. Yep, that is my preferred also. Okay, so everything's developed, and now he goes kingside. Wow, okay. So he's got weak light squares on the king side and weak dark squares on the queen side. So which side of the board do we want to focus on? I'm thinking about playing rook to c1 and just playing c4. I kind of like that idea. It also seems like the more moves I give him, the more weaknesses he's going to make, the more pawn moves. Yep, okay. Let's go ahead and start to open things up. This diagonal towards his king could become very useful. I'm also on this knight, so sneaky move queen d3 some point in the future. Do we take there, or do we just leave that? Gotta take it. We'll take it once. So I can stay on the diagonal with his king, or stay on the diagonal with his knight. I can also play this move bishop b5. Does that mean anything, though? Probably not. Move that looks fancier than it really is. All right, let's stay on the diagonal with his king. Bishop d5, and I think he can just take with the rook. Because I don't think this pin is meaningful yet. But yeah, bishop d5 was something on my radar. He got out of the pin. It's 3 a.m. I found when I was in college, 3 a.m. was a great time to play Bullet, but that was about it. Yeah, I want to just take this knight and open the H file. Let's try this. And then bishop b1, hitting this pawn. What does he do about that? I'm thinking next the move knight to h4. because these light squares are going to be weak the rest of the game. Yeah, exactly. When I was student teaching, I was supposed to be grading instead. Boy, it was always helpful. Okay, so I can't go knight h4 now, but let's try and get rid of that bishop. Inch our way in. Forked his rooks. Yes. Yes, I could have. I was so focused on this knight, but you are correct. My knight f4 move actually had multiple threats. That was just a fork. Yep, nicely spotted. And I'll reiterate that I'm really not playing any kind of amazing chess tonight. Just playing good enough to win these games so far. Because that was a one-move tactic. Okay, we got to get our queen in there. Oh, this looks good. And that check. He's going to block with his queen. So, what do we do about that? We need to get our rook involved. Let's get our rook involved. So my idea is to cause his queen to move. Threaten to win the queen. If he threatens mate, I win the queen. Kind of a funny sequence there. I can always stop this checkmate threat by pushing h3 or something. Okay. Now, do we go back to those knight h4 ideas? Probably not. At the moment, I could play rook to e8. That looks interesting. This f6 pawn is a bit annoying, though. Maybe I just play like queen to e2 or queen to e3 and just try and inch my way in. Rook here, rook takes, rook takes. Are trades good or bad for me? I'm not sure. Let's start by tripling up on the file, though. Yeah, this would have been a lot easier if I spotted that fork. Okay, stop the checkmate. And then I'm thinking rook here next. And I think if I can get my rook to the 7th, that should be a great position for me with these trades. And we're at least winning a pawn here. Can I win more? No, let's grab this pawn. And maybe this just wins more material if he's not careful. Wait, how does he stop that? Yeah, so I go here, pinning the bishop. And if he guards the bishop, I go here, hitting the knight. Okay, so the bishop's pinned. Okay, that was a good move. The bishop is still pinned. So let's try to attack it again. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so that wasn't super convincing. But we are up a pawn. And we can still be really annoying. I can take with check first. That seems dangerous. Let's go here. Hitting the knight. Okay, I'm guarding that pawn actually. So let's take here with a check. So bishop takes, rook takes, captures. That doesn't seem ideal. That's what I'm trying to do. But we may have bitten off more than we can chew with this knight move. Knight check, king over, then we take. Knight check, king back. It's not ideal. Well, the bishop's still pinned, so let's just bring our knight back. First game where we're really using our time. But now we're up 2 pawns. And we've also hit 2050 Lead Chess Rapid rating for the first time. So there's that. Here, bishop takes, I take the rook. That's not ideal. What else can this knight do? Let's go over here and hit the f6 pawn. On the h8 square, whenever I was talking about that check, yeah, I guess his king was close enough to guard it. I was just trying to think of ways that I could take advantage of his king needing to guard the rook and chasing my knight. Okay, now we get to attack this pawn again. This knight can't move. This bishop doesn't want to move. Maybe it can. He's losing at least a pawn. The rook is kind of stuck. Okay, so he's doing it that way. So do I take there with check first? No, probably not. Let's trade and go up 3 pawns. Let's hit that knight first. And I'll take with the bishop if needed. Okay, now I'm going to take with the bishop anyway. He's looking at this square. Yeah, the bishop anyway. Because my knight can guard that square in many cases. And he's trying to get another pawn here. Okay, so let's see if I can get another pawn first. See if my H pawn can cause him to slow down his going after these pawns. Attack it again. And push this guy. And push this guy. If I go here, knight takes. Okay. I take, knight takes, push, knight, push, knight. He gets back in time. If I take, king takes, he can't get back in time. So let me get 1 square further. Now if the king captures, I can take with the knight. Okay, look for a knight trade. Seems reasonable. Now let's run our king over in that direction because we've got this passed g pawn also. Okay, that's a free pawn. That should do it. Whew. He's making us work for this one. But now there's nothing he can do. We'll go here. Then we'll go here. 2 diagonal squares from the knight, just as we mentioned before. And there's really nothing his king can do. One thing to note is that you want to guard your pawns from behind if you have a knight in the endgame. Push here if he takes the pawn. This one runs. Like this. And now let's just be careful of any stalemates. Move that knight far away. Probably something easier, but let's just keep things simple. Okay, good game to my opponent. And we continue our little streak. We're in second place now. The person in first place is a much faster player, berserking all of theirs. And I haven't gotten matched up against him, so we still have our streak going. And he's in a game, so hopefully we get matched beforehand. And he's berserking us, and there is no reason to berserk back at this point. We've got a good streak going. He's rated over 1900. Let's just keep things nice and simple. So when he berserks, he also loses the increment. So it's actually 10 plus 5 against 5-0 in this position. And we're going to play a 4-knight scotch. Do I want to trade queens? I don't think so. Let's keep the queens on the board. Without this f3 knight, there's really no tactical advantage to trading. Now in this position, I probably am not going to play rook e1 without being extra careful, because this f2 pawn can definitely be tender, as exhibited right there. That being said, this trade is always good for white. So I'm going to just kind of wander over here and say, if you want to make all those trades, you can. So pawn push, knight takes, rook takes. Yeah, all of that should be good for me. Yeah, he retreats. Makes sense. Do I just go here and offer the bishop trade? Probably. Huh, he backs up. I'd like to get the queens off also, but I'm not sure exactly how to. Do I capture there? I think I do. That bishop's just too dangerous. Now let's play a3. Close off ideas of that file being used. And now I have ideas of playing e5 in the future. Yep, that move makes a lot of sense. He's thinking about swinging over somewhere onto that side of the board. But I feel like everything's under control. Maybe I shouldn't, but right now it feels like everything is under control. He is threatening h3 though, so maybe king h1. Bishop takes, queen takes, yeah. Bishop h1, knight goes back to g4. Okay. So there are definitely some threats here. Time to be careful. King to h1, knight comes back to g4, and what if I attack his queen then? Knight check, queen captures. Yeah, that seems okay. Okay, so maybe I have to allow the knight back to g4. Seems dangerous, but have to trust my calculation. If you don't trust yourself during your games, you're really going to get into trouble. Okay, didn't expect him to go that way. So let's cover the squares that the knight would want to jump to. And I assume we're going to just keep things closed by pushing. Wait, his queen is almost trapped. I'm looking at knight to g1 and then just playing g3. I guess now I've let the queen out by pushing this pawn, but I couldn't let the f file open. Hopefully he uses his 3 minutes trying to figure all of this out. Okay, now is he getting trapped again? Push the pawn, pawn takes, knight takes. No, he's got too many people on it. Oh, and he's on h3, of course. Of course. Okay, so let's go back. I go back to g1. He plays knight in. Pawn takes. I've got threats on the back rank. Okay. Yeah, so as I was saying, during the game, you've got to trust yourself. After the game, that's whenever you can work on your calculation and all that jazz. Okay, so he grabbed the pawn. All right. Fair enough. He's allowed to do that. Do I offer a rook trade? I guess I'd be pretty happy to escape this just down the pawn. Rook over, knight check. King up even is an idea. So I don't have the best knight in the world. Can I push this pawn now? Pawn takes. What about throwing in this bishop check? That seems pretty useful, actually. Let's throw in that bishop check, because I'd like the f8 rook to be undefended. and then g3. Seems crazy, but I think it makes sense. Because the pawn cannot capture. Okay, so now the pawn can capture, but that would allow a trade. Do I push and attack the knight? Where's the knight go? Is the knight trapped then? I think so. I think the knight's out of squares. If I don't get checkmated, I should win this game. That does not give the knight another square, though. So the knight's still trapped. One thing to watch out for is bishop to e6 and trying to pin my queen. That's an interesting idea. I still don't think it's a huge deal, but it's not something I considered. Yeah. Okay. So he's thinking the same thing. So let's try and stop that. Just controlling this square. He can go after some pawns, but that shouldn't be enough. Not worried about that rook trade. All right, let's take here. That looks good. He's down to 1:30. Okay, this rook trade looks good for me. He has back rank issues. The queen's now tied to the back rank. That trade, good for me. That trade, also good for me. So now I've got to be a little careful about perpetual checks and that kind of thing. Okay, he resigned. But I don't think there's really much he can do here. I can save my pawn. My queen's guarding my king really well. He can never play f3 to threaten g2 because my knight's there. Probably just leave my knight there. It's such a good defender. All right, the win streak continues. So we're up to 24 points. 21 minutes left. So that's time for one or two more games. Thank you. A little stressful. I'll have to look later to see if it actually was good defense or if we missed something. But it felt like everything was holding together there. All right. And here's a chance to berserk. So 1500, we're going to go for it. And he's berserking back. Let's go. First berserking, that's of the knight. That's a free pawn, so we'll take that guy. Made that mistake in many a bullet game. All right. Make some trades here now that we're up a pawn. start eyeing the king side right away. I'm going to castle queen side. I feel like his king is in some danger here. So I'd like to try and prove it. I'm not sure I can prove it. I'm not sure it's true, but we're going to try. Creating a lot of weaknesses here, but my idea is to try and get all of these pawns moving towards his king. And see what we can open up. Yeah, just like this. We're on the queen, and we're threatening checkmate. Fun move. Look at those pawns go. That's a nice idea by him. Oh, he's also on this pawn. Okay. So if I go here, he takes the pawn. I go here threatening mate. He goes check. I move up. He goes check. I push the pawn. He's out of checks. And can he stop mate? It doesn't look like it. Is there a better way for me to do that? How about queen here, here, then over here? He goes check. I go up. He goes back. I push. Basically the same thing. Okay. So he's going to run out of checks if he takes this pawn. And right now my threat is just to go to the H file. And he can't push either of these pawns to escape because I'll just push the other one and keep him locked in. So now we'll threaten mate. And then play here. As we said, we're on the queen. Expecting queen a4 check. We block with the pawn. And now his only check is to sacrifice the queen. Push the pawn. Keep him locked in. Sacrifices the queen. And next move is mate. So, good game to my opponent. And there we go. Another win. Get us 5 points. And right into another one. And he's almost 2,200. So, here we go, folks. Here we go. He's just gambiting this pawn. But apparently this is something real. I'm going to take it. I don't know any better. Let's find out why we're not supposed to. Bishop b4 seems pretty normal after this. Pretty sure I'm not supposed to take on f3, though. That looks like a bit much. At least at the moment. So 16 minutes left. This may be the last game. c5 is a pretty natural move here. It'd be a little unusual for him to castle kingside, so, okay. On this knight. Very unusual indeed. Capture. He has to take with the pawn. If the knight takes, I had queen to h4 check, which was pretty brutal. Okay, so queen h4 check. He's going to push this pawn. Yeah, I can't really get rid of his knight. So his knight's holding everything together at the moment. Queen h4 check, g3. And then is my queen misplaced, or do I have something additional there? He's going to attack my knight pretty soon. Do we play b6 and bishop b7? That's an interesting idea. I like that. Because I want to guard this knight. Okay, so now queen h4, g6, capture with the knight, knight takes, bishop takes rook. Check. I wonder if he plays king f1. I didn't consider that he could play that. Maybe that's possible. Okay, he does play there, so now capture here. Fair enough. Okay, so now I take the rook. I'm up 4 points of material here. Okay. Not going to be able to keep it all, but his king can't be feeling good right now. So, where are we going next? Simple pin. Pin the knight this way. It's a little more convincing. Pin the knight to the queen. We got a g4 instead. G4 looks good. Yeah, I like that square. Okay, so we're up the exchange and 2 pawns now. And he's decided to run his king for it. So let's retreat this bishop. Offer a simple bishop trade. Yeah, he backs up, of course. Let's develop our knight. Or do we push our c-pawn now? Am I worried about my c-pawn? No. He can take my c-pawn. He can have it. I'll take the c-file. So the big goal here is not to get checkmated. And at this rate, this game will not count for the tournament because there's only 11 minutes left. And this may be more than 11 minutes left. Likely is. Uh-huh. So can I force the queens off? I'd like to force a queen trade, but I'm not sure I can. Yeah, let's just play knight f6. Nice and safe move. Okay, now we can offer the queen trade. Every piece that comes off helps us. You can still take that c pawn, but then I'm up in exchange and a pawn, so still have a significant advantage. Yeah, he avoids it. Okay, so now do we check here? Checking there looks pretty good too. Let's just keep going. Now I want to play queen here. That's what I want to play. I want to say we're trading queens. There's nothing you can do about it. Which is exactly what this is, because to avoid the queen trade, he has to give up his rook. If he resigns here, we can get one more game in. Yeah, let's just trade queens. And now the work begins. E5 looks pretty good. Come back here, he pushes the pawn. I push the pawn, I guess. Is there anything to worry about? I could even push the f pawn if I wanted, I guess. Just trying to play this in the safest way possible also. Yeah, I think this is it. Pushes this, go here. Then let's get these rooks active. Close one. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. That bishop is actually quite annoying. All right, let's go here. Go after it this way, I guess. Go this way. He's not being very nice. Maybe we go after this pawn. And this pawn's not a huge threat yet, but it's just a matter of time. Alright, let's take this guy. Let's go over here after this bishop now again. Okay, I've got passed pawns on the A and H file, so that should mean something. Probably just need to give back the exchange at some point. I'd like to get his bishop for it. Guess we could go this way and try and push that A pawn. It's an interesting idea. Let's try this. This way I'm hitting the C2 pawn. Not sure if this is good or not, but it looks interesting. Less than 4 minutes left in the arena. Okay. Nope, don't do it like that. Do I just push the H pawn now? Guess so. Go H pawn, go. Letting things slip here though at the end. Push this pawn, I guess. Yeah, not ideal. Not ideal at all. Cracking under the pressure. All right, so we're going to go here because I want to create some threats, moving my rook. And now his rook's tied to this pawn. I thought he might take with the bishop. Then I was going to give back the exchange probably. My idea here is rook check and then queen. Might have to give up my rook for this pawn at some point. Okay, so he goes ahead and avoids that. many pawns am I going to give away here? I don't have anything to attack with this rook. Okay, I could go rook here. He's going to push the pawn, I guess. And then I can come back and hit the pawn. And then he's going to go something like knight over. I'm just not sure. Yeah, really not sure. Tournament's over, so we did have a good showing there, 29 points. Trying to finish this one off, though. Wow, bishop there I did not expect. I feel like I just have to start pushing another pawn now. All right, let's go. Even if I lose that a pawn, I should still have a good position, but he is giving some stiff defense. I'm down to a minute 23. King here, check, capture. Bishop captures, I guess. Is the idea. Let's go with this pawn. Couldn't avoid that. Gotta take this pawn now, I think. And it looks like everything's cut off. He defends. Okay, we're both queening, I guess. I guess we're both queening. I thought he would sacrifice the rook and then play another check, which I thought might have been good for him. So he could have taken my bishop, I queen, and then he goes check or something like that. Okay. Check here, maybe. Don't have enough time to calculate all of these checks, but just not enough time. 11 seconds. Five-second increment, though. Can I keep my king safe? Trying to stay on the... I'm not even sure what color squares. He's got dark square bishop, but then if he captures this with the queen, he's on the light squares. So, full focus. Yeah, that looks like a good move. Yeah, just too much time pressure. Can we still save this? I wanted to play queen here check. Queen blocks rook, but the bishop covers that square, so I could not. Let's do this. Rook check, king here, I guess. Ah, that's a good move. That's it. All right, well played to my opponent. Whew, that was a tough one. Well, good games to all my opponents. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Yeah, that last one was rough. He put up stiff defense, and I just didn't have a clear plan of which pawn to push, how to push them. I'll definitely have to look at that game tomorrow when I have a little more energy. So we ended up Not counting that last one, having a performance of 24.08. Of course, that last one would bring us down. But overall, a nice tournament, helping lead the team to victory, along with Sam, Isaac, Tom, and Brent. So, whew. Yeah, definitely could have won there. But anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for the support and the follows. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. And I'll see you guys next time.